not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
So it's funny, we had, usually we do our hottest Wolves takes earlier in the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday. The way the schedule kind of worked out this week, we moved it to Friday. So we had scheduled Friday hottest Wolves takes. And I worry that with what happened at Target Center last night, that adding hottest Wolves takes on top of it's like a stick of dynamite, a stick of dynamite mixed with gasoline on top of a raging fire. And I worry that we're gonna spiral out of control here by putting hottest Wolves takes on top of what happened last night. But what do you got? Should we push through and do it anyways?
Well, here's the thing for me personally. After sitting by you and witnessing that debacle, that absolutely no-show, I mean, I'm not going to give much. Like, why should I give more than the Wolves did? Why shouldn't I just no-show this game? Pay tribute to you, Phil. You know what? Welcome back. It's great to see you. You're the greatest ever. I'm happy for you. And
they definitely put more effort into the
here's my
5 minutes of tribute videos than the team put in on the court
exactly
last night.
Right. And here is my effort. That's it. Just a disgusting, despicable display.
So yeah, there's a lot of things to unpack off last night, but let's go to Padraigs quick first to set the tone for the show here.
Thank you very much. You know what? Because after last night, I needed a drink. I needed a good beer, and that's exactly what you're going to find at Padraigs. Padraigs Brewing. They only do beer. Absolutely fantastic. They do, I've been talking about this, the Irish Red, Irish Porter, Irish Dry Stout, English IPA, and I could go on and on, but I'm going to tell you right now, all of these beers are fantastic. It's why they are the official beer of the Sports Dad. 6-packs now available at Lunds & Byerly's, Kowalski's, Haskell's, Hy-Vee, Total Wine, Cub, and more. That's right, the distributor for Padraigs, the distribution, I should say, is growing and growing. If you don't find it in your liquor store, if you don't find it in your bar, ask for it. It is a fantastic beer, and it would have made me feel much better if I could have sipped on one last night in Target Center.
Yeah. So I think I have a question for you guys, and then I would say as we get into this discussion last night and then the big picture of it all, when you feel compelled to deliver your hottest Wolves take within this discussion, just go for it, okay? Like, tell us it's coming.
I was going to say, should we tell you? Okay.
So if we get into 5 or 6 minutes and Declan's like, you know what? All right, I'm going to tee up this ball.
Shot clock's going.
Just jump in. But my first question for you guys is, what do you think Tim Connolly was thinking and feeling watching that game last night?
Well, he had to be, and I'm not saying he's without, like, he can't absolve himself, but I think he had to be disgusted. Because, well, first of all, I'd be curious to know how much he had to do with the pregame stuff. Like, let's set the scene, okay? Like, we acted like a hero was returning. Like, you would have thought KAT came back with no fewer than 5 LOBs for the Timberwolves.
It was pretty.
Like,
we knew there was going to be like a warm reception,
yes,
organizationally and otherwise. It was wild.
If I ran basketball ops, I mean, I have never seen a human being, including some who have come back after championships, get not 1 but 2 tribute videos. 2? If I had been Conley, I would have said, hold on, folks. We're going to do 1. It's going to be pregame. If you want to get in the coat drive stuff in that one, that's awesome. If you don't, that's fine too. But we are not going to give him a hero's welcome when 1, I traded him, and 2, I traded him for a purpose, and 3, he did not win any championships here. So let's stop with that. But then the effort of the team from Chris Finch on down, like, they literally, it was as if the Timberwolves were told, okay, here's the deal. KAT's coming back with the Knickerbockers, and KAT is going to be a member of the Harlem Globetrotters, and you're the Washington Generals. So roll over and play as poorly as you possibly can, because we need to make this the perfect night. I would have been, and everybody should have been, and unfortunately, I don't think they were, disgusted, starting with Tim Connolly. And hell, whoever owns this team should have been pissed off.
I'm just like, I'm writing down, like, you just hit on a couple things. So I'll deliver maybe one of 100 hottest Wolves takes right here real quick. Last night was so disingenuous. They traded him for reasons. And we can debate or not whether those reasons are, whether Tim Connolly is right or wrong. But they traded him for reasons, and they traded him, reason number one, because they didn't think they could win a championship with him as the highest paid player centerpiece of the roster. Because if they thought that, they wouldn't have made the trade. Like, nobody would have no front office executive in their right mind would have traded him if they thought the next logical step was championship. And so you watch the tribute stuff, you watch just the fanfare and the festivities and everything, and the way that everything is portrayed, now in retrospect. Why would you trade that? If that's what you thought all along as an organization, why would you trade that? And so, second hot take, I guess, off that one. I feel like people want to turn this episode on, and if social media was any indication last night and today, and you don't want to hear anything other than, like, you want blood. You want everyone should be fired. Everyone is an idiot. Karl-Anthony Towns is now the best player in the NBA. And, like, I think people want one tone of discussion. I can't, like, in my soul, I still feel like trading him was the right move. Now, the things that have happened in the aftermath with Julius Randle and Chris Finch and Donte DiVincenzo, we can dive into some of that stuff. But last night didn't align with what people thought for years and years and years, what people thought after games 1, 2, and 3 of the Western Conference Finals when he's shooting 27% and derailing your chances to get to the NBA Finals. I don't know, man. It felt oddly. I know, like, he was a longtime member of the organization, did a lot of great things in the community. But to your point, I have never seen anyone given 2 tribute videos, one before the game, one during the game. He's literally, like, taking pictures with, like, the corporate banker guy at center court during the pregame lead up. It was crazy. And credit to him, by the way, for just 30, 20, and 5 and having a top 5 night of his life, probably, the 30 years he's been on Earth, man. That was like, if you're KAT, you feel great after last night. But I don't know. What a weird night all around.
The only person that should have gotten a tribute like that would have been, God rest his soul, if Kirby Puckett had left the Twins and come back. Like, that's what that was like. But Puckett won 2 World Series here. So, like, if Kirby had left and gone to, I don't know, take your pick, the Red Sox, okay? And then he comes back. And in the 90s, we didn't do this, which, by the way, thank God, I'm so sick of this stuff. But anyway, but Puckett, like, you would have thought that KAT led this team to multiple championships. That disgusts me from a Wolves business standpoint. But where I do want blood is, what the hell was the performance? Like we're talking about KAT now, like the Wolves tried. The Wolves didn't try. What was that?
They laid down. That was crazy.
But I mean, that to me, the weak-mindedness of that performance last night. Yes, it's 1 of 82. I get that, but they showed no pride. That's a talker to me. Like, I'm more disgusted by what the Wolves did than talking about KAT. Like, Wolves fans should be pissed off by what this roster did last night. Not like, how could you trade KAT from that? And if I'm Conley, that's what I'm saying this morning or this afternoon is, okay, I built a pretty good team here. And from the coach on down last night, I'm not joking. It was literally like they were the Washington Generals and we're told, your job tonight is to roll over and make KAT feel as good as he possibly can, and we don't care how much you lose by. It was a gross performance.
Priority number 1 last night, everyone involved, including the Timberwolves players, to your point, was make KAT feel like a king coming back to this arena. Yes. It almost felt like the organization felt guilty. Like, they made the trade for reasons, and now they feel kind of guilty about it or something, and so they went over the top in ways that you don't normally do for really any player. I don't know that KG got like, KG came back with Boston and he kind of waved at the scores table. We did a tribute video. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we did do like 3 tribute videos. But on the flip side, and I've been Knicks fans have discovered my Twitter account this morning. It is December 19th. And yes, last night was an absolute embarrassment for the Timberwolves. It was a crowning for KAT. No franchise celebrates and thumps their chest in December in the NBA like the New York Knicks historically. They are the December champions seemingly every other year. And so all I will say is, like, as bad as this looks and feels right now, it is December 19th, December 20th in the NBA. And it was a trade that was made with a 3 to 5 year window arc, not a trade made immediately and only for 2024-25. But even if we are only measuring in 2024-25, it's December 19th. It's December 20th. Let's take a deep breath. Let's let this thing play out. Let's see if there's another move on the horizon. There's a Julius Randle discussion to be had here. But yeah, I understand how Wolves fans feel after last night. But for anyone that's just like, fire everyone, Tim Connolly's an idiot. I mean, the guy's made a lot of right moves in his career, including almost every right move with the Timberwolves. And so either he is wildly wrong for the first time since taking this job, or we all need to take a deep breath and have some patience.
So let's go back to the KAT tribute stuff here for a minute, because I just want to give you guys my perspective here, because I tend to align with your guys' opinion of KAT's tenure here with the Wolves. But I will say, this is a franchise that has not had much of any established star players. When you do the Wolves ranking list, and it's a fun list because it's hard because there hasn't been a lot of established stars. KAT is obviously one of the figureheads of the best Wolves players of all time because of the lack of star players and established guys that have been here. And you also, I think, the reason a guy like that gets a tribute videos, because it was multiple videos, is because he literally represented an entire era of Wolves basketball that wasn't great and that had a bunch. I think this is the part we sometimes forget about. Like, for example, my youngest brother-in-law has no conscious memory of Randy Moss in his prime. Has really no conscious memory of Randy Moss playing football. But he knows Justin Jefferson and is under the belief that Justin Jefferson is the greatest wide receiver that's ever lived because he's only seen so much. There is an entire era of young Wolves fans who are either in their teens or maybe even their early 20s that have no memory of prime Kevin Garnett, that Karl was their Garnett. I'm not implying that Towns and Garnett are the same, because KG was a literal MVP and a perennial all-star and honestly a face of the NBA. KAT has never really gotten to that status level. But I do think sometimes we overreact, this show does, to the KAT love and tributes and the reactions. I completely get why the Wolves did the things that they did last night in the area of remembering KAT. Them laying an egg and that embarrassing performance that the actual team put out, that is a huge discussion, and I think it's worth talking about. But I honestly, I will push back to you guys a little bit and say, I understand why those KAT tributes happen.
So my problem is this, though. Where do you draw the line then? He won nothing. He won absolutely nothing. Like, he was treated, it was weird. He was treated like he won championships. Like, I don't care about how young people feel about a player. Like, I'm not saying don't do something for him. I'm not saying don't welcome him back. I'm saying during player introductions, which are ordinarily for the opposing team, this very mundane, Jaylen Brown starting at a guard, you stop it and you do a 1.5-minute tribute video. Where do we draw the line here? Like this has been my complaint going back to the Wild, right? Oh, Charlie Coyle's back. Let's do a tribute video. What did he win here? He was part of a pain in the ass locker room. You know, KAT. I'm not saying you treat him like he's a cancer, but I am saying it was an embarrassment. And the fact that the team then followed along, and I mean, flat out right now, my problem is, 20 some odd games, 14-12 into this season, this Wolves team is soft. They rolled over like a bunch of clowns last night.
Yeah, we should get more into that for sure.
But I mean, that's Phil, that's my biggest problem with what we saw last night. I don't care about KAT. He's left town now. He'll go do his act in New York and do a coat drives and stuff. By the way, we get way too caught up in what guys do. The community thing's different. And I will say this. I told you this last night about Moss. If you're going to do community stuff, don't do press releases about it. Don't do photo ops. If you're going to be good to kids, which is awesome, shut your mouth and be good to kids. We don't need to know that you're doing that unless you want the attention so you can be feted upon your return. But I have a huge problem with how damn soft everyone was last night. This is competitive professional sports. Let's act like we care about being competitive.
Well, they punted the game in a lot of ways. They
Yes.
created a home court environment for the Knicks last night.
Correct.
Which is crazy. And like the whole night was a celebration of Karl-Anthony Towns. It was a crowning of Karl-Anthony Towns. Now on the court, the Wolves competitively could have done something more about it than they did, and we will have plenty to say about that here shortly.
Yes.
But it literally was set up for, and even Tibbs, Tibbs coming back again. Of course, we boo Tom Thibodeau and we cheer Karl-Anthony Towns. Right. But the whole thing was set up for KAT and Tibbs and the Knicks. Like, this is a do or die, winner take all game 7. Home environment for the Knicks, by the way, to my point earlier. I've never felt 20 years covering and being around sports in this market. I have not felt anything like it. It was some cognitive dissonance that felt uncomfortable to me last night.
Do you know what the perfect welcome back was that I can recall in the last 24 years? So sort of since welcome back started, right? Because we used to Rod Carew came back, now batting for the Angels, first baseman Rod Carew, smattering of applause and boos, okay?
Torrey
and that's
Hunter.
Rod Carew.
I remember Torrey Hunter coming back.
That's what I was going to say.
The batter's box.
That's what I was going to say, though. The Torrey Hunter one was the best one. He left. Now we can argue about what he was offered, okay? But he did leave, and he stepped in. Snowy night outside, the Metrodome. Angels are here. First game, I believe, of the season, and Phil, you're exactly right. Steps in the batter's box. People love Torrey. Got a very nice round of applause. Tipped his cap. That was perfect, and nobody overdid it. It was organic. That's what it should be. If people want to applaud you, that's awesome. But this whole thing of, I mean, last night took it to a place where it should never go.
But dude, one last thing on this. You put yourself, they literally set their own franchise up to look like idiots.
Yes.
Because when you put a guy on a pedestal like that, and then he clowns you and you lose a game like that, everybody in the arena, everybody on social media, watching on TV, has this powerful core feeling of, well, how and why would you ever make a move like this? It's like it was the biggest self-own night in recent Timberwolves history. And to pivot here, part of it was the players absolutely laying down in that game. Anthony Edwards, one of his biggest I know the stats will show 17 points and he hit a couple threes and stuff. One of the biggest no-show games for him. Mm-hmm. Julius Randle decided, and Chris Finch allowed him to hijack that thing. Julius Randle, by the way, for KAT spent 2 hours before the game behind the scenes and on the court, dapping up everybody and hanging out in the Timberwolves locker room and going through taking pictures. I didn't see Julius Randle interact with one person from the Knicks the entire night. He left the court immediately after the game was over.
DiVincenzo did, but you're right. I didn't see Randle.
Yeah, DiVincenzo had a couple little interactions here and there. Yep. But, it was Julius Randle decided, just like he's done for large chunks of the season, that I'm gonna do my thing and you guys can do your thing, and I'm gonna hijack this. And it started well. He hit a bunch of shots early on.
You're right, though.
But one of my biggest issues post-trade, because my hottest take here is I still stand by trading him was the right idea. It looks terrible right now. You all yelled at me for my Andrew Wiggins takes years ago. You all yelled about the Kirk Cousins discussion. Let's let this play out and see what happens. But one of the biggest things I thought was going to happen, which hasn't, was Naz Reid's ascension was supposed to be a byproduct of this. And Naz Reid has gone backwards while this team and franchise turned the keys over to Julius Randle to play the second most minutes on the team, basically. Way too much Julius Randle. Donte DiVincenzo looks miserable. So there's a conversation about part 2 here. So you made the decision to make the trade. Now what with these pieces? And it's just it should not have been the Julius Randle show last night, and yet it turned into that.
So what is Chris Finch doing here, though? Like Julius, I actually like him, and I think that he can play a really nice role. But to your point, you can't. He has to be told upon arrival, here's your role. It feels like he's decided, here's my role. You know, this whole thing when he came here in the trade and started to do his press conferences about, I love Finchie. In New Orleans with him for a while. I love Well, it's like he's pushing Finchie around. Like, this is what I don't understand. This team is soft. This team at the first sign of trouble goes south. I mean, last night they got off to a good start. They're up by a point after a quarter. Julius had scored 15 points. Second quarter, the rotation doesn't work as well. Naz gets in foul trouble, and it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Like, where is, and do not tell me that Karl-Anthony Towns was the leader of this team. Do not tell me that Karl was the glue guy and they accidentally traded the glue guy. I don't believe that. I never saw that. So my question is, what the hell is going on here? Why is Julius, the DiVincenzo thing I think is worth its own conversation, because I'm with you. He is about to win the Tommy Herr award for the most miserable relocated player that I've seen in a long time. But the Rande thing is bizarre. I don't understand what they're doing in situations like this. And by the way, a team that has not been great offensively of late, but was playing really solid defense, gave up 133 points last night.
Yeah, it was. And, the Knicks are doing what the Wolves have done at times in the Karl-Anthony Towns era, which is put him at the 5 and just have spacing for days. And so that's what the Knicks are. I mean, the Knicks have lineups where it's like everyone can hit a 3-pointer, and you got 2 guys in the corners, and there's KAT at the top of the key, and there's wide open space for guys to penetrate. And the Wolves are kind of the opposite. And I want to tee you up because you went to the locker room afterwards, and Anthony Edwards was not too happy, that's how he should feel. But he talked about the lack of spacing and the lack of a plan, and it was a lot of just some cryptic stuff. But first, deep breath. Brickworth, just steps away from Target Center, a great place to hang before and after games or for away games with all the TVs. Some of the best dry rub wings in the Twin Cities, very famous with their creativity, Detroit-style pizza, and the signature Naz Reid Hazy IPA. So if you've yet to stop into Brickworth, make it your next pregame stop or make it your next road game stop with some friends in the North Loop. Also some great cheaper parking options there too, and you can just walk down the street to Target Center. There's the OG location in Burnsville as well. But Brickworth, we appreciate their partnership here on Flagrant Howls. And then just kind of kitty corner down the street from Brickworth is Element Hotel, which if you're in town, maybe from outside the metro, or you got family or friends coming in, or you're just looking for a fun, maybe overnight stay downtown, go to a Wolves game, Twins game. Element Hotel, a Marriott Bonvoy property, very walkable to some of downtown Minneapolis's finest and most popular restaurants and bars. Bright natural lighting throughout the hotel and the rooms. City views all over the place. Free breakfast in the morning. Element Hotel, just down the street from Target Center and Target Field. A 15% room rate discount at Element when you go to scorenorth.com/element. That's scorenorth.com/element for a 15% room rate discount. Locker room vibes, Judd. Take us into the locker room.
Very odd. The entire night was odd, and I felt like the Wolves post-game locker room just added to that. First of all, the first 2 guys to talk were Gobert and Ant, and they're basically side by side. I think there might be a locker between them, but it's a circular room so it's not like football where there can be some partitions really, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, my first impression was this. So Gobert talked first, and let's just go through his game, because Gobert's game is, again, in a long line of things last night, disturbing.
Yeah.
22 minutes, 1 shot which he made from the field, 4 rebounds, 3 points on the night, no block shots, minus 37. So I think we can.
That's great.
So yeah. So when it comes to in hockey and basketball, the plus minus can be deceiving at times, right? Like you can't rely on that, but in this case you can. He was a minus 37, and he admitted he didn't play that well, and that started a feeling that I didn't like, which was I felt like there was a comfortability with the loss. Like I felt like they were like, well, we've been playing well. It's 1 bad game. It's disappointing, but good for KAT. Love seeing KAT. Like you got embarrassed. There's a difference between losing, like if you lost by 5, right? Hell, by 10. If you had lost by 10. Okay, and let's say you played well. But you played well for one quarter. And Gobert was just like very matter-of-factly, I didn't play well. I felt like I didn't have, he basically said, I felt like I didn't show up. Well, no bleep, Sherlock. But so that was very disturbing because as a competitor, you just got embarrassed by a former teammate who, by the way, the fans would have rather now that you've been traded than KAT. Now, that's not a debate, but that is how it felt. Okay, so let's go one locker over from Gobert. While Gobert is talking, Ant comes back from the shower to get dressed. And Ant has now, I've seen this or read about this, and I firsthand experience last night. Ant has taken to listening in on the questions being asked by reporters of players near him and interjecting. And so he comes back, and I heard him say something along the lines of, there's a reason why KAT was the first pick. That's what he can do. Like he's talking to himself, but he clearly wants all of us to hear it. And that was sort of, it was weird. And it was also like, okay, yeah, you're clearly not pleased that he got traded. And to go back, Ant Phil made it very clear at media day that he didn't know the trade was coming. And I don't know if he's still pissed about that or not. But when Ant starts to talk then, unlike the Sacramento game where he just came out basically inflamed the team, which I actually appreciated because they deserved it at that point, Ant was much more cryptic in his comments, said he had some thoughts on things like how the offense is running, but he would keep those to himself, implying that I think he's been chastised for earlier comments. But when asked about KAT, said, I couldn't show it, but I was really happy for him. Yeah. So like for all of the cryptic comments and the fact that Ant might not have been pleased with the loss, I don't think he was, if this makes sense, nearly as bothered by the loss as he should have been. You are the guy who took the mantle from KAT. And
not fully though. He's a really good player. He's only 23 years old. So there's still a lot of room here. But he's on the immature side of 23. Yeah. If Tim Duncan at 23 coming in from Wake Forest, or what was he, 21 when he came in the league, whatever it was. If he was like 23 going on 38 at the time, Ant is a young 23. The Netflix docuseries kind of showed that. He's super fun-loving. He's got great leadership qualities, and he can take over a game. But he has not taken the step that you thought and hoped off the Olympic experience. And again, I want to leave room for some patience here. A guy that's not going to even really hit his prime for maybe 2 or 3 more years. But there is definitely, with Kyle Anderson gone and KAT, for all of his flaws, that's a huge, huge franchise presence that's out the door. And no one has really fully, they're still in their feelings about that void rather than Ant and, DiVincenzo is a whole nother conversation, but dude, that dude looks as sad and depressed to be. He's watching his buddies from Villanova lighting it up in New York right now, and he looks like he feels left out from that. So the Wolves just look sad and shell-shocked from the trade still, is my biggest observation last night.
But let's go back to Ant, though, last night, okay? Because the maturity thing, which, by the way, I'm sort of getting tired of, though, because he's 23, but he's been around now. What bothered me last night was he's supposed to be a huge competitor, and he often is. Where was that last night? And there was no, he's frustrated, but there was no, my pride was hurt. Like there was none of that. He's talking about, well, I was really happy. I couldn't show it, but I was really happy that Karl came back and kicked your ass. Dude, you have drawn comparisons to Michael Jordan. Can you imagine, I don't care what age, 23, 43. Can you, Michael Jordan is still pissed off about things. Can you imagine if, I don't know, take your pick, former Bull comes back and kicks the Bulls' ass, and the Bulls feted him like he was a returning hero, and Jordan says, well, you know what, privately, I was really happy for him. That's not maturity. That is dude, you are supposed to be this team's ultimate competitor, and you're not showing it. You're frustrated. Okay, that's cool. But again, now he's sort of taking it in and been told, don't talk about that. So he's frustrated, but I'm not going to share those things. But then passively aggressively, he sort of does. I think last night, showed some in a very small sample size, showed some of the real issues here. And if you just say, well, it's a bad loss, play again on Saturday against Golden State, don't be concerned about it, I think you're ignoring a growing cancer problem.
And it's mid-December in the NBA.
But you got to get...
But the last time people felt this way about the Timberwolves, I know people don't want to hear this today, was 2 years ago. Tim Connolly's an idiot. How could you upset something that won 46 games the previous year and went to the playoffs? How could you throw a wrench into this thing that we're building? And then KAT missing 50 games prevented them from gelling together, and they had to wait till the next year. But I think there's definitely room for some really healthy criticism of everyone that we're pointing at here. Ant over to Gobert, worst game of maybe his Timberwolves career, and dude, DiVincenzo, snap out of it, man. What are we doing here? I mean, he's out there literally running 11 minutes with the Luka Garzas because Chris Finch is trying to get him to lock his shot in. And nothing matters on December 19th. I'm telling you, man, the Knicks and Karl-Anthony Towns are the kings of December and January triumphs in the NBA.
Right, but dude,
one of the things on that tribute video was celebrating KAT dropping 60 points. The thing that was omitted was they lost that game because they were clowning around against the Hornets. It's too early to freak out. Criticism for sure. It's too early to freak out about this.
But this is a great window into your chemistry issues. Like if you don't have to freak out, but you don't have things right here. Like you have a locker room that was happy for a guy that kicked your ass. That's a chemistry problem. And that's not going to fix itself. That's not going to fix itself. And beyond all of these things, as Royce said on Unchained, and I'm beginning to think he's right, your starting point guard might be cooked. Mike Conley had 3 points last night. It's bad. 1 of 5.
He's shooting 34% on the season.
He can't play that much anymore. And God bless him. That guy has had a great career. But he's been on the edge of that cliff now for 2 years. And last year you got a pleasant surprise. Like you have some real issues here that, yes, it's December 19th, but you're being given a window into where this is going. Things need to be fixed.
Yeah, the Wolves so they're only playing like an 8-man rotation every night, so 25% of their main rotation is shooting 34 and 36% in Conley and DiVincenzo.
Right.
That's awful.
Well, and I'm actually more disturbed for the future now by DiVincenzo than Randle. Because I think
Randle's just a ship passing in the night.
Exactly.
Here. Yeah.
Exactly. He's going to move out very soon. Like and hell, he can be traded, okay? And I do think that he could get you something back. The DiVincenzo thing really concerns me because I was on the same page as you, Phil, which is I think he was, and I think it's been reported, Tim Connolly was not going to say yes to the KAT trade until DiVincenzo was thrown in. And there's a reason for that. And you've gone through that. And this guy, I'm telling you, I'm not joking. He looks like Tommy Herr looked. Like, I know I can play, but I think
for the 28-year-old twin Wolves fans that have no idea what you're talking about.
Second baseman, Tommy Herr traded straight up in April of 88 for Tom Brunansky. Tommy Herr traded by the Cardinals. On the plane here was crying because he didn't want to leave the Cardinals. Yeah. And he got here, and you know what? He played like a guy for his entire Twins tenure, like a guy who was crying that he had to be here. Donte DiVincenzo, to me, looks the same. I mean, it's not for a while there, I was like, okay, you know what? The 3-point shot's going to come around. He's been miscast a little bit, asked to handle the ball too much. But watching him live, it looks like he just hates it.
Zero joy. Yeah.
So
it's, yeah. Any final thoughts or last-minute rogue takes from you guys here as we put this episode to bed and put the Timberwolves franchise to bed forever, because last night was the end of the Timberwolves franchise from what I'm hearing.
It was the end of them being competitive. It was the end of them being a competitive team. Now
if they beat the Warriors, by the way, are we going to all be back on the, well, we're back?
No, I've seen too many warts. I've seen too many warts now. I need to see. I think they're going to have to make some changes here. And by the way, I think if they do, they could be fine. But the funniest thing is Saturday night. Now is this the Warriors' first trip here?
Yeah, they played them twice in.
Twice in
so.
State,
yeah.
Right?
Listen to me. At Target Center right now. business ops, business department, entertainment center, if you're going to do what you did for KAT last night, then you need to give the real captain of the 2023-24 Wolves the same treatment. I want 2 slow-mo welcome backs.
Agreed.
I want you to all agree, including the locker room, to go in the tank for slow-mo, because there is a real case to be made that the glue guy was not Karl. Oh, it's great when Karl would make jokes at practice. We would all laugh, and then we would go out for treats afterwards. The real guy who got in people's faces and told them to F off and get their act together was Kyle Anderson. So listen to me and listen to me good. I want at least 2.5 minutes, can be 2 of them, tributes to Kyle, because that was your glue guy, dummies. That was your glue guy.
Amen. And if we're too sad to, it's almost too close together. Bringing Kyle Anderson back in here, and maybe just forfeit the game.
You know what we should do, Phil?
Move on to the road or something.
Get good
to
seats,
Christmas.
and in protest, rush the floor, because everyone else is.
Man, dude, that security guard who tackled the one, he was he was ready, man.
Now
he was pouncing.
We did hear that they were planning on performing untoward acts on the floor, but that was definitely not a protest, right?
Well, I think they might have been protesting the pathetic effort by the Timberwolves in the second quarter.
I'm just saying,
I don't know if they were going to flash or what their plan was.
I think you said that they had actually done that at a Knicks game last Thursday somewhere.
Somebody else on Media Row said that to us. Yeah, or he referenced that it might have been the same.
It was not chicken people.
Here.
It was not chicken people.
It was not, no.
Oh,
glue
glue your hand
glue girl.
gal. Yeah.
Glue girl.
No. So anyways, send your, I'm sure this episode is going to infuriate a lot of people that only want blood and a head on a steak, and to bring back Karl-Anthony Towns to continue the Wolves dynasty that was winning championships. But it's a long season. This is Flagrant Howls, a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
We miss you, Karl.